This one, which would you'd be able to use its ability of with its one shot, becomes in this case a 2/5 because of the Underfoot Commander's ability. And this one would become a 6/3. They both have speed, so now you are able to attack with a 6/3 and a 2/5 plus whatever else is out in play. And in this case, if these were Shinhair, which they're not, obviously we're looking at a Dwarf Warlock and a Dwarf Mage. But had you done something similar with a Shinhair, and you had a Shinhair ability, all Shinhair get +1/+1 or something like that, like the Bucktooth Roshi. Other Shinhair you control have +2/+2. Now you've got yourself in a nice situation where your opponent thinks you've got some tunneled cards, he knows something's coming up, but now you're looking at +2/+2 plus everything else on top of that in addition to that. Alright. Mimeo Bot, when this enters play, create 2 replicas of a troop in your hand and put it into your deck. So it doesn't go to your hand like Mimic. However, it does go into your deck. They're replicas, so they are artifacts. And this one is an artifact robot itself, so it can it's a nice 1-drop to help with any robot abilities that you have, and it can combo with other abilities that you have as well. If you're playing an artifact deck and you've got kind of like the dwarf, gosh, I can't think of it now that I'm on the spot, but the dwarf that comes out and anytime an artifact comes into play, deals 1 damage. And you, of course, Replicator's Gambit that and make it ridiculous. Well, obviously you're not Replicator's Gambiting it, but you could use a similar effect to create replicas because they become artifacts. And then the last uncommon is a Dual Shard Royal Diplomat with a double socketable miner. It is a 3/4 steadfast human cleric, cost 5, 1 diamond threshold. So this is pretty good. Even in draft, the 1 threshold is what I really like. The 1 threshold with the double diamond or with the double socket. Because if you're playing, say, Diamond Wild, no, let's go with Diamond. We'll go Diamond Wild. Diamond Wild. Now maybe you're making that into a 4/5 life drain, giving a +1/+1 and life drain. Or maybe you're making that a spell shield life drain. So now you've got a 3/4 spell shield life drain. That's going to be ugly to deal with. What about life drain flight? So maybe you're playing Diamond Sapphire and you're giving it flight, and now you're giving it life drain as well. So that double socket is pretty bad, and when I mean bad, I mean badass. So pretty cool. Alright, that's that pack, and it looks like we got a chest. We're gonna go ahead and stash that for now. Let's crack another pack and go through it. See what we got here. Alright. For our commons, Duskwing Outrider, a 3/1 life drain flight for 5 and 2 diamond threshold. Ebony Pawn complements its Ivory Pawn partner. Instead of gaining a life, you tap it to deal 1 damage to each opposing champion. Notice it says each. That'll be good in PvE and in multiplayer formats. Cogteptil's Thirst, if I can pronounce that correctly, is a quick action for 2. It is in blood, but it has a threshold. So here you'll notice the 4 threshold. It's basically a bonus. If you have a threshold of 4 blood, you get to draw a card. Otherwise, you can still use this ability to give something +3/+1. So if you're dealing with a lot of troops that have 1 on the back end, opposing troops that have 1 on the back end, you could use it as a removal card. If you are looking at, say, maybe a Headless Executioner, that's a 5/5 Stompy McStomp. And you want to make him worse. You want to make him an 8/4. You can do that as well. So this is not a bad card. It's a quick action too, so I do really appreciate that versus having to play it as a basic action. Dementia Daisies is for those of you, it's a Chaos Touched plant, which is kind of fun, Chaos Touched. And for those of you who enjoy the mill type scenario where you're destroying the deck of the opponent, this is a card for you. 0/4 defensive for 3, and when you gain a charge, bury the top 2 cards of each opposing champion's deck. Excavation Hulk is a tunneling robot artifact, and it's simple just you tunnel it for 2. It's a 6 cost, but you can get it out 4 turns later if you'd rather tunnel it. So pretty simple there. Grand Squirrel Titan is just a 6/6 for 6 and 2 wild threshold. Darkspire Punisher is one of those Darkspire cards. You'll notice that there's been a lot of Darkspire cards in the previous set, and you'll notice a couple here as well. The Darkspire Punisher is a 3/3 for, or I'm sorry, a 2/2 for 3 cost, and it's got a 2 blood threshold. When this dies, choose one at random. Each opposing champion discards a card at random, or search your deck for a troop with Darkspire in its name, put it in your hand. So very much like the Darkspire Priestess, where you can deal damage to the opposing champion at random, or get another Darkspire. This one is similar in that you can force a discard of a card, or have a troop with Darkspire go fetch another Darkspire troop. Armatron is a 2/2 robot artifact for 3. When it enters play, another target artifact you control gets +1/+1. And that does not say till end of turn. Rune Era Brower. As you would have guessed, this is a tunneler. It's a Shinhair Ranger. It's a 1/1 for 4. And you're thinking, 1/1 for 4? That kind of really sucks. And in most cases, I'd agree with you. But you can tunnel it for 3 turns. It only costs 2 to tunnel. And then when it enters play, it gets +1/+1 for each other troop you control. So at this point, you can maybe cast it underground, pump out a bunch of bunnies, boom, it pops up. Surprise! Not only does it have speed when it comes out, but now you're looking at, say, a 1/1 plus 4, maybe 5. So 1/1 plus 5, now you're looking at a 6/6 speed. Not bad considering you only paid 2 for it. And it's a common. Vanguard of Cerulean. She is a human mage, and if you have a Sapphire threshold, you get +1/+1 in flight. So it becomes a 2/3 flight for 3 if you're playing those 2 colors. Construct Foreman. When this enters play, you may transform target artifact into a warbot. You got yourself out a goblin cooking pot, and you're like, man, it's not really doing me any good. I don't want it out there. Boom, becomes a 3/3. Crack that pack accidentally again. Crack that rare. We've got another wild, Cottontail Recruiter. It is a 1/1. I keep doing that. It is a 1/2 for 1, and it's a 1 wild threshold. Shinhair Warrior. If one of your cards or effects would create one or more cards named Battle Hopper, create that many Shinhair Militia instead. So instead of creating 0/1 Battle Hoppers when you create Battle Hoppers, it instead creates that many 1/2 Shinhair Militias. I'm not sure if there's a link that allows me to click it. No, it does not. But instead you're creating those 1/2 Shinhair Militias. Not bad. Alright, another Royal Diplomat. We've got a Dread Monolith, not to be confused with its partner in crime, Runic Monolith. Dread Monolith is pay 2, it's a basic action only, so you can only use it during one of your main steps. Basic action, target troop gets this, cannot block. We have Shard of the Ancients here, one of the uncommon shards that will allow you to gain this or that, as well as a charge. It does gain you 0/1 resource, something to pay attention to. Like your basic shards will give you 1 resource available that turn, as well as 1 permanent resource available in the future. This one gives you no resources that turn, but 1 resource available to use in the future. And you can gain either a blood or a wild, so it gives you that versatility. It doesn't give you both. And it does give you a charge, which is helpful, unlike Shards of Fate does not give you a charge. So it gives you a charge, which is nice, and it's got that versatility of I can play one or the other depending on what I need at the time. Alright. And we've got ourselves an uncommon chest I'm going to stash away. I did notice something when I was cracking the pack. If you notice right when I go to drop it, I drop it and it turns into a Shards of Fate pack. Something that they'll have to fix the UI there. Watch when I drop this next pack in there. Right here. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Look for it. Changes pack. It's okay because the cards are correct. Looking for that orange glow? Nah, it's a blue glow. Alright, still rare like we get in every pack. Let's see what we got in this pack. Alright, let's go through a few of these commons and then we'll jump to the uncommons and the rare again. Got a one-shot Shinhair Cleric here, and then a a one-shot exhausted troop for free, which is nice. It doesn't have to be basic action, and you pay 0 to exhaust it. So that's pretty cool. It's a 2/1 for 2. Keep cracking that pack as I get click happy on accident. Fury of the Mountain God. If you remember Blood of the Mountain God and Fang of the Mountain God, Fury of the Mountain God should look a little familiar, but not entirely. This guy's a rare. He's got 2 sockets for 8. He's got 2 blood threshold. He's a 4/4. Those 2 sockets really going to come in handy because one's a major and one's a minor. That 8 cost, man, you're looking at that going, a 4/4 for 8, 2 sockets maybe offsets it, but when a troop you control deals damage, if this is in your hand, it gets cost -1. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not until end of turn. It gets cost -1. Now, I could be wrong in thinking that because I believe, I'd have to go and look. In fact, I'm just going to do it right now. Let's see if we can pull this up. I'm going to open this window so that y'all can see it too. Add screen region. Alright, here we go. Alright, and I am going to go to the HexTCG website, and if you click onto templating improvements, that is an article that basically talks about some of the verbiage that they've changed, why that verbiage change is important. And it discusses it in here, not only for improved readability, but also to help out with the automated scripting that they have. Here it says, we were worried that some cards in Shard of Fate were just too difficult to grasp. Possibly, based on their terminology. There are some cosmetic changes as well, so they're easier to understand for players. Excuse me. So it goes in and it talks about this a little bit. So go in and read this article, but then now if you go into the Shattered Destiny patch notes, there's a ton of changes, most of which are awesome. But let's go into this where we see certain things say have cosmetic card changes, removing card types, or gameplay, adding source of damage to artifacts to all artifacts and troops, or trait line changes. Angel now has the traits avatar, for example. So there's a lot of changes that went into effect here. And what I want to see here is something that mentions end of turn. I do not know. Okay. Did not mean to do that. End of turn. Yeah. So here it says, at end of turn, remove all rockets, which that one is in set 1. At end of turn, if you okay. At end of turn, void that warbot. Speed at end of turn, put this into your deck. So, I don't... There we go. That's what I was looking for. I thought I had read that somewhere, so I was correct in stating that earlier. I was not misspeaking, which makes me happy. Gameplay. Modifiers are now permanent unless they explicitly state otherwise. So instead of always saying gets permanent +1/+1, permanent plus, so automatically it's permanent unless it says till end of turn. So we are correct in assuming that. Let's drop out of this. So when we go back here to the Fury of the Mountain God, what makes this so good is whenever a troop you control deals damage, if this is in your hand, it gets cost -1 permanently. So when you Fang of the Mountain God turn 1 and you Blood the Mountain God turn 2, I think I said that backwards. I think it goes Blood then Fang. Either way, you do that turn 1 and turn 2, his 8 cost becomes a much more manageable cost later on down the road. And with his socketable major minor, that's just awesome. There's a lot you can do with that. Alright. Crackling Rod. I was talking earlier about the different crackling cards in each color. This one is target troop gets -2/-2 and you gain a charge. We've got some more construction plans. We've got a crank rocket. In this case, you have to remove 3 or more, or you have to have 3 or more counters from dwarves and robots to get a crank rocket, which is an artifact that stays in